Sure. Well, I mean, the U.S.'s role, I think, is pretty straightforward, which is that they would very much prefer that the Philippines, simply become a subordinate component of their encirclement of China. That the Philippines would line up 100%. The relationship between the Philippines and the U.S., of course, has had a very complex trajectory that it was an American colony, and we did kill all those people over there. And it's only after World War II that the Philippines becomes independent. But even then, there were massive American bases there. It was used during the war in Vietnam as a base of operations. Finally, eventually, Philippine governments asked the Americans to depart, and for a while there were no American bases. Now the U.S. is sort of creeping back in. The Philippines, under different administrations, have navigated a complicated relationship with China. There have been times when Philippine leaders have gone to Beijing and met with Chinese leaders, and there have been joint statements issued, and of course there's trade that goes back and forth, tourism, things like that. But at other times, different leaders, or even the same leaders, change their minds. The current leader, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., had initially went to China and had some very seemingly very friendly conversations, but then has now cozied up to the United States. I think that the Philippines tries to sort of play both sides in ways that will allow it to maximize, Philippine interests. That's obviously a somewhat problematic process. And right now, the Philippines are positioning themselves very closely with the United States. So how this is going to go in the future, whether there will be another sort of swing back towards a more China-friendly posture, I think that remains to be seen. But I certainly think that that's a possibility. I think that the Philippines, their leaders they're not completely irrational people. They're going to look at the situation. China is right there in terms of the economic future of the planet. China is the rising entity, and I think that the Philippines they'd be nuts to try to really totally alienate China. On the other hand, they have this long history with the U.S., and the U.S. is very, very eager to pour resources in ways that will draw other countries closer to them. The U.S. is in some ways kind of in panic mode about Southeast Asia, and so the Philippines is kind of the strongest card that they have to play, that the Americans have to play. But the Philippine leadership is not going to is unlikely to just completely subordinate itself to American domination. How they're going to pursue that in the future, I think, is something we're going to have to watch very carefully. The South China Sea is it's a dangerous realm right now. The U.S. is being super provocative, and of course, it has other proxies. The Australians, patrol in there as well, in their sort of demented devotion to America, even as Australian politicians are increasingly recognizing that their relationship with China is going to be very important for their own futures. So we're in a transitional era, and I think that if China continues to retain the kind of cool-headed approach to things that they have demonstrated so consistently, that somehow or other will navigate through this. But the United States, as it becomes increasingly desperate and increasingly reckless, is the great danger to peace, not just in the South China Sea, and as we know, in many other parts of the world as well.